Brazilian cinema, in the eyes of many international audiences, is often associated with images of violence, crime, and the chaos of the favelas in Rio de Janeiro. A vivid and brutally realistic portrait of some of the world's poorest and most dangerous communities is brought to life in the cinematic masterpiece City of God, 2002. The film depicts the rise of organized crime in the Cidade de Deus favela from the late 1960s to the early 1980s, as seen through the eyes of Rocket, a young man with aspirations of becoming a photographer. This review contains plot details. Please come back later if you wish to experience the film without spoilers. City of God is an epic Brazilian crime film released in 2002, co-directed by Fernando Meirelles and Katia Lund. Based on the 1997 novel of the same name by Paulo Lins, the film offers one of the most raw and multidimensional portrayals of life on the margins of society. Drawing from a true story, City of God spans 2 decades and chronicles the rise and clash of rival street gangs in the Cidade de Deus neighborhood, ironically named the City of God, located on the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro. The film opens with a striking scene of a knife being sharpened to slaughter a chicken, a powerful metaphor crafted by the directors, symbolizing how fragile life is in the City of God and how anyone can be killed at any moment. The main setting is Cidade de Deus, a favela established in the 1960s to relocate unwanted residents from central Rio. This community exists almost entirely outside the reach of law and order. Most of its inhabitants are criminals, the homeless, or people living in extreme poverty. In the opening sequence, a group of young teenagers armed with guns chases down a chicken that is broken free. The chaotic pursuit spills onto the streets and ends in a sudden standoff with the police. It's a vivid demonstration that violence in this place can erupt anywhere, at any time. The film then rewinds to the past and introduces its 2 central characters, Rocket and Lil Dice, 2 lives shaped in stark contrast under the same brutal conditions. Both are born into a slum, without hope, without future, and seemingly without escape, yet they walk vastly different paths through the relentless hardship of the City of God. The story begins with the legend of the Tender Trio, the original 3 little heroes of the early days of Cidade de Deus, back when the favela was still relatively calm in the 1960s. The group included Shaggy, Clipper, and Goose, the latter being Rocket's older brother. At this time, Lil Dice was just a mischievous boy, but he was already fascinated by the criminal exploits of the Tender Trio, who primarily committed robberies targeting delivery trucks and wealthy homes. Unlike the violent street gangs that would rise later, the Tender Trio operated under a loose code. They weren't excessively cruel and mainly stole to gather enough money to escape the hopeless slum life. Lil Dice followed them from a distance, observing, learning, and absorbing the way of the streets. One day, the boy proposed a more daring plan, robbing a brothel to make quick money. The heist went smoothly, and the trio escaped with the cash. However, what followed revealed a disturbing truth. Before the robbery, the trio had instructed Lil Dice to wait outside and act as lookout. But instead of standing guard, Lil Dice fired a gunshot into the brothel, creating a diversion that allowed the trio to escape, only to sneak back in afterward and murder everyone inside. This event was the first clear glimpse into Lil Dice's true nature, cunning, manipulative, and alarmingly bloodthirsty. That moment marked the beginning of a darker era in Cidade de Deus's criminal landscape. The murders drew the attention of the authorities, triggering a brutal crackdown on crime. The fate of the Tender Trio was inevitable. Shaggy and Clipper were both killed in the aftermath, and Goose, Rocket's brother, ultimately died at the hands of the very boy who once idolized them, Lil Dice himself. This pivotal sequence not only highlights the early seeds of Lil Dice's monstrous ambition. The film transitions into a new decade, the 1970s. Rocket has now become a teenager with a deep passion for photography, while Lil Dice has evolved into a ruthless crime lord. Surrounded by a new generation of armed children raised in the slums, Lil Dice solidifies his dominance over Cidade de Deus through a reign of terror. He rebrands himself as Lil Zay.
De menino não se chama mais dadinho, De menino chama Jé pequeno, Jé pequeno, Jé pequeno pra crescer, menino.
A name meant to signal his rise to absolute power and the burying of his chaotic, juvenile past. Under Lil Zay's rule, Cidade de Deus becomes a dystopian microstate. He enforces a brutal order through intimidation, violence, and bribes to corrupt police officers, creating what can be described as a parasitic regime, a fragile stability held together by fear and blood. But as always, no king rules without rivals. Z's main adversary is Carrot, leader of a rival drug faction who controls another portion of the favela. Unlike Z, Carrot is diplomatic and avoids confrontation whenever possible. Yet both men share the same goal, monopolizing the drug trade in Cidade de Deus. The rivalry reaches its boiling point with the tragic death of Benny, Z, Nenici's closest friend, and the only person capable of tempering his violent tendencies. Based on Benny's diplomacy, the rival gangs of Cidade de Deus were able to maintain a fragile peace for a time, but with Benny's death, everything unraveled. Lil Zay lost his moral anchor. Now unchecked and unrestrained, descended further into madness and cruelty. Benny was a rare figure in this brutal world, a free spirit who grew weary of the endless cycle of violence and bloodshed. He longed to break free and live a peaceful life with the woman he loved. In a final bid to leave it all behind, Benny hosted a farewell party, hoping to say goodbye to his life of crime. But fate had other plans. What was meant to be a celebration of freedom turned into a tragic farewell. Benny was killed that night, and with his death, hope seemed to vanish. That moment became the spark for a full-scale gang war between Lil Zay and Carrot's faction. With no more diplomacy and no one left to mediate, Cidade de Deus spiraled into chaos. In a place like this, even the line between good and evil becomes blurred. Caught in the middle of this inferno is Rocket. He doesn't want to be a gangster, nor does he want to be a victim. He's simply a boy with a camera, clinging to the hope that he might escape through his passion for photography. And just when everything seems to be closing in, a chance encounter at a newspaper office offers Rocket a lifeline, a rare opportunity to break free from the cycle and choose a different path. The later part of City of God depicts the power struggle in Cidade de Deus. Without Benny, Lil Zay brazenly takes away the girlfriend of Knockout Ned, a regular man with a past in the military and former sharpshooting skills. Lil Zay's recklessness leads to a tragic disaster for Ned. He kills his uncle, his younger brother, and opens fire mercilessly into Ned's house. This event allows Carrot to gain a new ally as Ned joins him, ready to massacre Lil Zay's faction. It can be said that Ned is a victim of darkness, ultimately leading to his own destruction. He represents the tragedy of ideals at the bottom of society, corrupted by environment. Ned is a man of integrity, kindness, and strong principles, but he gets pulled into the war with Lil Zay, sinking deeper and deeper into a bloodthirsty spiral. It was too late to turn back. In the end, out of kindness, he tries to save a child comrade who has been shot, but Ned is killed by that very child, who later reveals that Ned had killed his father during a robbery with Carrot. And so, fate eventually led Ned to his own death. The ending of the film is the brutal war that brings closure to Lil Zay. Like a cycle, perhaps he could never imagine what his death would be like, falling on the battlefield or collapsing in a hail of bullets. But in the end, Lil Zay is killed by the group of children who once followed him. Just like in the past, he was the one who shot and killed Goose, Rocket's brother. The beginning and the end intertwine, and Lil Zay's unexpected, fateful death may represent a new rebirth for the City of God. The final scene, with dead bodies lying across the street, is a recreation based on actual photographs taken after the real drug war that occurred at that time. City of God captivates us with its raw energy and vibrancy. The performances by the cast are incredibly authentic and convincing. Most of the actors were non-professionals, the only exception being Seu Jorge, a famous Brazilian samba artist who played the role of Knockout Ned's uncle. The director employed outstanding cinematographic techniques. Many scenes appear desaturated and carry a classic, high-contrast look, creating a gritty visual aesthetic. The film was mostly not shot in the actual Cidade de Deus favela because it was deemed too dangerous. Instead, filming took place in a nearby, less risky area. The screenplay is boldly edited, delivering a dark, intense atmosphere. The music blends in seamlessly, and director Fernando Meirelles captures certain haunting moments without overwhelming the audience. This is a crime film that follows the rules of the City of God, but with no God in it. Originally, the favela was meant to be a safe and peaceful place for the poor. But in reality, violence and drugs transformed it into a nightmare. It's as if God had abandoned it, leaving people to struggle and survive in a world filled with crime, despair, and hopelessness. The review ends here. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next